Join us today as we can up some moose meat stew in our countertop electric pressure canner. Welcome to Modern Homestead Alaska. We are Aaron and Jessica Milnes. We are building a modern homestead outside of Wasilla, Alaska, with the help of 3 of our children. Our second son, Caleb, our daughter, Cody Ann, and the youngest of our family, Wyatt, along with our 3 dogs, Tipper and Daisy, and the newest addition, Roberto. I first did the pre-prep with the vegetables that are going to go into this stew. It is very similar to beef stew, so we're going to do potatoes that are peeled and diced similar sizes, as well as I peeled my carrots. I don't normally peel carrots, but for this recipe, because we're canning, I did peel and dice the carrots as well. And then we had some celery in the refrigerator, and so I did do some dicing of the celery. As far as this great big hunk of moose, this is the moose that my neighbor had gotten on the Roadkill list, and I went and helped her butcher that, and then she gave me this roast, and we decided to turn this into the stew so that we have some shelf-stable things that we can just grab and go whenever we want, as well as take it fishing or out into the woods and doing all the different activities that we do. So we do feel like having some pre-made things that come from good wild harvested ingredients is an amazing way to be doing stuff. And with it being the middle of winter, now is a good time to kind of be doing some prep work on things, pulling stuff out of the freezer, seeing what we can't can up. I do pull any of the hard tissue. I save all that. I fry it up for the dogs, and any of the gray skin on the outside of this roast, we want to pull or shave that off as well. The size of the dice on the meat, that's really up to you, whatever you kind of prefer. But keep in mind, as the meat gives up its own moisture in the canning process, it's going to shrink down a little bit. So make sure that the pieces are big enough that you're not turning it into ground meat through the cooking process, but instead you've got some good meaty chunks of this moose in the final product. I have some clean jars. I don't need them hot and sterilized, all of that, because they are going to go in the pressure canner, and that is just common pressure canning practices. I do have some fresh herbs in the fridge, and so I decide to do a little rosemary and thyme as a seasoning for the stew. However, you could use whatever dry seasonings, whatever you would normally put in stew, that is up to you, but a really nice dice on this is what we're going to use. Because I personally was making dinner and I had several other things going on in the house at the time, I wait until just before we're ready to can up to chop up the onion. I don't want it losing its flavor or giving off all of its juice. I want that packed into the jars. And I just have the potatoes and carrots and stuff sitting in cold water so that they're not turning brown and all of that. But I went ahead and we do some onion in our stew as well, so that we're getting equal amounts of the moose meat in the jars. I decided to do the layered way, and that is the meat on the bottom, some salt, and so on. I'll walk you through that process here. The other idea is you could just take all of it, mix it together, have it all thrown in, and then toss it into the jars. You don't have to do it in layers. You could do it either way. Again, that is up to you. I did want to mention, for each quart, I do 1 teaspoon of a good salt. You could use whatever salt it is that you like to can with. I did a fine grain sea salt this load. So I'm just going to show you really quick how I pack it in here in layers, like what we were talking about. I start with the moose meat on the bottom. And then we go in with that 1 teaspoon of salt. I had lost my teaspoon between previously recording and now, so I had a half teaspoon in this clip that you're seeing. And then next I go in with the diced peeled potatoes. These are completely raw, not pre-cooked or blanched or anything like that. I keep them in some ice cold water that keeps them from turning brown before we are able to get everything packed in there. And then I did the peeled and diced carrots, those as well. I just keep them in some ice cold water, keeping everything looking fresh before we get everything canned up. And then the last couple of things to go in are onions, some celery. I really like it. Not everyone likes celery. You don't have to put anything in your stew that you don't want to put in there. And then finally, I top it with some of those fresh herbs, the thyme and rosemary. I like the flavor of those. Again, use whatever you like at your house. All right, I've packed in each jar and I think it got cut off, so I'm gonna record packing the jars. I am now, what I have boiling over here is just some beef broth. I have made mine, either you can use bouillon, and I just used what was left in a little jar of Better Than Bouillon and made some beef broth, basically, or beef stock. And I am going to, it is boiling, as is the water that's going to go into the canner. So I'm gonna fill these. I don't have like a chopstick, but I can see, and I'm just gonna come in here with this plastic butter knife. Normally I use a metal one, but because of the way this is packed in here, we do not want to have to shove down but we want all those air bubbles out. Now I have a rag. This is straight white vinegar, and I am going to super clean because I had my fingers all in there. We might have gotten some broth or some fat from fat. Moose have no fat. But anyway, some of those proteins and different things on. So we want to make sure we completely seal this up. This canner has not shut off today, not for very long anyway. As I get this canner going, I would like to just thank each and every one of you for joining us today on this video. I hope you enjoyed just a little short, sweet, canning up some moose meat stew. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, you'll get notification. Thumbs up and comments help our channel to grow. I put it in and follow my instructions for my canner. I do high at 90 minutes. So no matter how you process it or what canner you process with, the stew needs to go for my 90 minutes. With that, I will see you in the next video. Be blessed until then.